Welcome to Servant Leadership Mentorship. Today, we continue Unit 1, Interpersonal Communication, Part B, Deepening Conversations and Building Rapport. So, today's objective is we are going to learn how to deepen conversations, establish rapport, and use nonverbal cues to connect with others. If you remember, last week was all about making the introductions, using good eye contact, smiling, using your face, listening, asking questions. Today, we continue with some of those same tools in our tool belt, but we are going to go deeper. So today, I want to start with a scripture, Proverbs 12:25. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. And I just use this scripture today because I want to remind you that communication for some can be very anxiety ridden. It's something that causes them a lot of anxiety, especially in new relationships. Some people aren't natural at conversation. Some people aren't natural in meeting new people. But some people, these are skills that are just very easy for them, but that's not how it is for everyone. So remember, from the servant leadership perspective, it's all about what does this person need? What can I be for you that you need me to be? It's about serving them. It's about loving them. It's about alleviating anxiety. So anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. So today we are going to start with building rapport. So there are some techniques for building rapport, and we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about mirroring body language and matching tone. We're going to talk about finding common ground and using humor appropriately. Now, we kind of touched on this before, but studies have shown that when we are in conversation one-on-one, that when one individual mirrors the body language of another person, it actually puts them at ease. So if someone's talking to you and they're using their hands a lot, or they're leaning back in their chair, if they've got their arms crossed and they're touching their face, simply in a very natural way to kind of mirror their stance, mirror their head motion. If they tilt their head to the side, you can tilt yours to the side too, mirroring their posture, their gestures, not mocking them, right? Not doing it so accurately that it's obvious, but just in a relaxed state of being, matching there and mirroring their body language actually puts the other person at ease and actually creates a level of trust between two people, as does matching tone, right? So if you have someone who's talking very softly, well, when you talk to them very softly too. You kind of match their tone and it puts them at ease. So that is one tool into building rapport. Another one is finding common ground. Now, this can be tricky for some people because people who their mind moves very quickly, often our ADHD friends, that when they're listening to someone and they hear something that they have in common, their mind latches onto it and they unintentionally interrupt or blurt to share this common ground that they have, but oftentimes that causes them to hijack the conversation. So there is a natural way to, in an appropriate time, when the person pauses, to say, you know what? That happened to me too. Or, you know what? I have felt the same. I have felt the same. I have found that, right? So there's opportunities for you to share common ground. That would build rapport. And another is using humor appropriately, right? To put that person at ease. Now, I will tell you, if you're not good at this, maybe don't try it. You don't have to use every single one of these tools. If you are not good at humor, it may come out forced, it may come out awkward, or it may come out inappropriately. Not on purpose, but it can, if you're not good at this, it can come across in the way you don't want it to come across. So if you know that you're one of those people, then maybe don't use humor. So that is building rapport. So A first homework is I want you to practice building rapport with a partner in various scenarios. At a networking event, at a church event, at a social gathering. Just simply begin a conversation, practice mirroring, practice finding common ground, and you can practice humor if if you want to. It's a tricky one. So that is one for building rapport. For deepening conversations, we have to talk about empathy and emotional and intelligence in conversations. So, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence often refers to the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions as well as those of others. It's called EQ. If you hear EQ instead of IQ, EQ, emotional intelligence. It often goes beyond simply expressing just how we feel. It involves being aware. You're going to hear this, an awareness of how emotions impact our thoughts and our actions. So if your thoughts are running rampant on you, you may not have developed your emotional intelligence because you have an awareness of how your emotions are impacting your thoughts and your actions. By developing emotional intelligence, we can navigate through all the different complexities of human interactions, and we can do it with grace. So, one thing about understanding emotional intelligence is, like I said, you have to be self-aware. And this means recognizing and acknowledging our own emotions without judgment or suppression. So, in other words, you're not going to beat yourself up for having the emotions you have, and you're not going to tamp them down and say, I can't feel this. But we are in tune with ourselves, right? We become better equipped to communicate effectively if we have an awareness of how we feel and how we control those emotions. And it will help us become more effective at expressing our thoughts and our feelings authentically when we begin to develop this emotional intelligence. So, another crucial element of emotional intelligence is empathy. So, empathy allows us to step into someone else's perspective, and it helps us to understand that perspective. It's going to require some things. We're going to have to listen actively, have genuine curiosity, authentic, genuine curiosity about how they're feeling, what they're thinking, and have an open heart because we may not always have the same type of life as someone else. We may not have the same type of perspective, and we need to be able to have an open heart to receive those who think differently than us, who believe differently than us, who react differently than us. So when we approach communication with empathy, it actually fosters this sense of connection. It creates this connection that can go beyond just even the things that we are talking about. Also, emotional regulation, emotional intelligence plays a vital role in effective communication. So, if we are able to control our emotions, it can help us to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively or compulsively, because because we are aware, we will have the time and control to pause before responding. And actually we'll be using more of our thinking brain than our reactive brain, if you remember me talking about that last week. And it's you can even use this. I'm also a health coach, so there's this thing we call stop, challenge, choose, where you stop, you challenge the emotion that you're feeling, and in that challenge, that like up to 10 seconds, you control your reactive brain, the one that just wants to go blah, or the one that just wants to eat something, right? It gives your thinking brain time to react and respond and direct you in the right direction. By pausing before responding and taking a moment to process our emotions internally, we can choose words that are clear, constructive, considerate, and not hurtful. Next week, we're going to talk about certain ways and certain things that we could say that can be construed as hurtful if we are not more aware. So, in addition to internal factors like having your self awareness and having emotional intelligence and emotional regulation, managing our emotions, social awareness plays a significant role in enhancing our communication skills too. So, being socially aware means having sensitivity towards others' emotions, picking up on subtle cues such as body language, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, tone of voice, it's a big one. Both of these may indicate how someone is feeling even when they don't explicitly express it verbally. So, understand all the complexities of emotional intelligence. It will provide us with some really powerful tools for building rapport, building stronger relationships, both personally, professionally, in ministry. So, whether it's trying to develop trust with people at work or deepen connections in ministry or in leadership positions, your emotional intelligence, it really holds the power to transform how we interact with one another on a basic level. So, how? How can I show empathy in conversations? So, empathy and understanding, like we said, are key components of this effective communication. And when we connect with others on that emotional level, it creates a sense of trust, openness that allows for deeper conversations, more complex revelations, other than on a surface level, and help us build stronger relationships. So, to truly empathize with someone, we have to be able to put ourselves in their shoes. Like I said earlier, understand their perspective. And so, you're going to have to actively listen. And that can be hard sometimes. You have to pay attention not only to the words they say, but you're going to have to be looking up at their body language, at their face, their tone, like we said earlier. In doing this, we can actually see how they're feeling and what they're not saying. And we can respond then in a way that makes them feel seen and makes them feel heard, even though they haven't said really much of anything. And so understanding goes hand in hand with empathy. It takes time to ask these questions, seek clarification when needed. If you don't understand, don't act like you do. Say, to clarify, are you saying this? Or you repeat what they say, but you rephrase it. By seeking to understand someone's thoughts, their feelings, and experiences, we're actually showing them that we value what they have to say. And if we're talking too much, they're not going to feel seen. They're not going to feel heard. So this fosters this sense of connection that we're trying to do, this deepening connection that's essential for effective communication. When we connect with others on an emotional level through empathy, understanding, it opens up the possibility for meaningful dialogue. So something that goes beyond just the superficial, oh, how's the weather type of thing. And we can find common ground even when our opinions differ or come from different backgrounds. I have some family members that radically are where our political beliefs are polarized, right? But we have agreed that we're not going to talk about those things. We're going to find the common ground, the things that knit us together instead of pull us apart. So when we do this, it allows us to bridge those gaps, resolve conflicts peacefully, and build stronger connections. So, in order to cultivate empathy and understanding in our communication skills, again, you have to practice self-reflection regularly. You have to become aware of your own biases, your own preconceived notions. You have to understand everything you see is through a lens. So you have to understand that how you're seeing the world may not be the reality. How you even see them may not be truth because it's colored by your maybe history of rejection, history of whatever has happened to you in your life creates a colored lens through which you see other people. And so we have to understand that because it's going to help us approach conversations with a more open mind, without judgment, without assumptions. I've had so many people come to me and say, well, I didn't talk to you because I just thought that you were like this, because they had an assumption about me that they made either based on maybe something someone else said, or maybe even through their own their own lens of rejection or perception. So developing these skills, you guys, it's going to take time, practice, and patience. And it requires actively seeking out a lot of opportunities for growth by engaging in a lot of different social experiences, learning from different perspectives, even learning. You can go online and read about these things. So, what are practical ways that you can, in a conversation, connect and show empathy? Simply by saying things like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Ah, I understand. Wow, that sounds tough. Tell me more." So these things make them feel seen and that you want to know more about them. So, what I want you to think about is how you have handled your own difficult emotions in maybe difficult conversations or in situations that were higher stress. How did you manage your emotions in a conversation setting? And finally, we're going to talk about body language. We're going to revisit very, very briefly body language, understanding that nonverbal communication, eye contact, your gestures, even how close you're standing to someone, how important that is to building that rapport. If you're trying to gain someone's trust, being all up in their face maybe is not the best way, but also standing too far off and having closed arms can signal a distance. You have to be aware of your own body language, your own facial expressions, your own tone. You have to be aware of what you're telling them non-verbally. You could be trying to tell them one thing, but your face is telling them another, and your tone is telling them another. And maybe you're uncomfortable with conversation with strangers or new people. So you've got your body turned like you're trying to leave, or if you've got things crossed, or maybe you're holding your body in a way that's protective. And all of these things create distance. So you have to be aware of your own nonverbal body language, but at the same time, you need to recognize their nonverbal signals that they're sending. Are they pursing their lips? Are they grimacing? Are their eyes wide like they're looking for the exit? Do they look down at the ground a lot? Do they not want to look you in the eye? Are they looking around anywhere else? Are they actively involved? Do they have an open expression? Do they smile? Do they not smile? All of these things, they communicate something other than what is being said. I am sending some supplementals this week about nonverbal. I'm sending two very fascinating ones from an FBI agent, one talking about facial expressions and the different types and what they mean, and different body language and what it means. It's really, really fascinating, and it will help you if you are not really practiced at noticing the nonverbal communication. Well, what I want for you to do, I just want to remind you that mirroring, asking empathetic questions, finding common ground, and using humor are all part of building rapport. And what I want you to do, I want you to go practice. Practice makes perfect, or perfect practice makes perfect. So go out, have longer conversations with someone, focusing on the rapport building strategies that we talked about today, your body language, being empathetic, and trying to be more self-aware so that you can increase your emotional intelligence and emotional awareness, and so that you can manage your emotions better. And when you manage your emotions better, you're able to be a more empathetic listener. And that's it for today. Next week, we are going to dive into some of the pitfalls of communication, some of the don'ts, and we'll talk about how to navigate those and maybe what a good alternative to those things that we sometimes fall into would be. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.